Have you ever hyperfixated on a song so hard that you accidentally ended up in the artist's house? 'Cause same. And this is that story. Enter Alec King, my top Spotify artist 2 years in a row. I found his music when I polled my followers to help me choose a song for a dating app profile. And my good friend Luke came in with the ultimate song rec. Please stop calling, gotta let me live. And the rest was history. His albums dominated my playlist for over a year. And then Alec messaged me wanting a sign for his new album. I of course said yes, and of course broke things and myself along the way.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Anyways, enough of that. Let's get into it. Now, let me start off with a little secret. I don't plan any of my builds until I start them. But I do look at pretty much every logo I ever see and picture it in my head as a 3D wooden sign. I don't think through any logistics, and that is how I get into a mess every single time. All of that to say, if anybody else there suffers with that ailment, please let me know so we can be friends and trauma bond over that stuff. I tried to take a different approach this time, and that was starting with the backer. I almost never do that because backers are my least favorite part of the project, but this one kind of felt like it had to with just the shape of everything. So this was me dancing, of course, and processing wood, planning out all the dimensions, thicknesses, all of that fun stuff, including tripping my saw stop breaker. And I use my saw stop to replace a lot of tools that I don't have. One of them being a jointer, a planer, and a bandsaw to resaw. So we just kind of use it as a multi-tool because we are a Boy Scout. This is me getting boards jointed together without said milling tools, but we always get it done. And of course, no backer happens without bringing in my girls, my beautiful Bessies, which you should tape. Keep them clean. You'll thank yourself later. And then I forgot that my floor is uneven, so I had to double my saw stop as a workbench. But that means the backer is officially glued up, and yes, there are other layers to the backer, but I had to get into the scroll saw work for my mental health. For all of my templates, I use contact paper and spray adhesive and nothing else because it works. And as my pawpaw said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for those super small letters, I was able to find this rough offcut. And don't worry about that. But this seemed like the right thickness to make sure they were proportional and to feel a little something when I was cutting. I spent a lot more time than you see here trying to get the boards exactly how I wanted them because I wanted the top layers to have the heaviest curl I could find. Scrolling is by far my favorite part, other than everything coming together. In fact, I get so excited that I always forget to drill the insides. Thankfully, filming slows me down enough that I was able to do that before cutting, and it helped me a lot. So if you are a scroll sawer out there, this is your reminder to cut the inside cuts first, so you're not cutting them fingers off. I'm just kidding. This is actually the safest tool I think I own. I've never hurt myself on a scroll saw. It's like less scary than a sewing machine. And my OCD self always needs to round over the edges, which isn't my favorite part, but it makes such a difference. You see that just that slight round over, it just gives it a very polished look. While the shop is my happy place, I'm still very impatient and I scroll at full speed, so I have to clean up the edges almost every time. And I broke out my very professional router setup and this cute little round over bit to give a nice profile to these letters, which of course doesn't get into the corners, so I do that manually. Could use like a chisel or something. I didn't have those at this time because this footage is a year old. But after lots of sanding, including the very tiny letters, we got her all done. Which also meant I had to finish the backer, which required a lot of sanding, but it went by pretty quickly, and my Festool Orbital is an absolute dream. And so is my Pegasus scroll saw. It handles everything big and small. It's 21 inches, which means I can cut up to 42-inch long things, even if it means I have to stand up while doing it. So I glued up other panels. See here the curly maple I was talking about before, or the different layers. First, I cut the yellow layer right there, which goes on top of the white backer. And then I removed the template again and doubled it and gave the next one. And now that all of the main layers were cut out, there was this red border that went around the blue layer that I just cut out of thinner material so it looked like it was layered, but without the extra material. And also sharp enough to cut a bitch. I sanded that very thin so it would be seamless. And as you can see, I was prepping one of the other layers for the element I've been excited about since the beginning.
Man, I'm tired.
Oh, who am I kidding? I always have energy for the swoop.
I'm going to use a combination of this and this other layer, trace with a scalpel onto the 3/4 maple so I can cut that arch.
Re-enter my handy dandy scalpel. I don't know if it's my history in medicine or what, but it is like an extension of me. And if I lose my scalpel, I lose my ever-loving mind.
Oh yeah, we love that. That is tight.
And I figured we haven't had anything catastrophic go wrong yet, so I wanted to really stress myself out by using like the strongest double-sided sticky tape you will ever use in your entire life.
Oh, that was really dumb of me. God, if you can hear me, I'm sorry for all of my sins. Oh my God.
I just wanted to add, I cut out a lot of this. I almost had a mental breakdown, but thankfully it came off in just the nick of time.
Thank God. Fuck you, sticky tape.
Back to my emotional support scalpel, which unlike the sticky tape, never does me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that sounded like a tight fit to me. And to wrap up the swoop saga means to actually bring it from that 3/4 down to a 1/4 level thickness, which means removing quite a bit of material, hence the belt sander and all the hand touches, because I mean, it is made by hand. Here you see me gluing it to that layer because both the swoop and that layer are going to be yellow and I want it to be as continuous as possible, which meant glue and sanding and absolutely nothing else delinquent. Thankfully, the glue and sawdust method has yet to ever let me down, just like my scalpel. Now, I started stacking and stickering my panels overnight because I was having some bowing issues with not only how thin they were, the humidity at that time, and that cut for the swoop. I just kept them as flat as possible until I glued them up. And instead of using the template, I traced the cut line using the panel as a reference because I needed this faux layer to be extra tight. And because I wanted that swoop to span all of the levels, it of course meant I had to cut all of the levels to allow that to happen. And in the interest of work smarter, not harder, I use a router whenever I can to get those nice side profiles, and I wanted everything to have a nice round over. Because, I mean, who doesn't love some curves? And anything else that was just too small or dangerous, I did by hand with my rotary tool. And now, the part you've all been waiting for. Or at least I had been. AKA breaking out my chestnut spirit stains. These were absolutely love at first sight and came highly recommended by my friend Daniel Brown at Laughing Mantis Studio.
Oh yeah.
Although they were almost impossible to open.
Shit. I don't think I like this one. It just looks like... No comment. I'm just glad I don't have to open up anymore because that made me want to jump into traffic. Ugh. Another one.
I needed a whitewash for the backer, and in their defense, their white isn't meant for that. So
I decided to use Rubio Cotton White for the backer. This is meant more for mixing it with colors. Whatever. Not gonna work. Cut the camera.
I have crowned myself the queen of not cleaning off any of her bottles after she pours from them, and that's why that happens. So here we're mixing the Rubio, putting it on wrong, actually, and I don't want to hear it from you keyboard warriors. I have since learned to just put it on the white abrasive pad, but it still worked. It gave it that whiter appearance like I needed. So let's move on.
Oh, wrong color. I'm just kidding. Oh, that looks so good.
And it was about this time when I realized it was too yellow.
Stand by.
And by that I mean it was almost had a green undertone to it, and it needed to be more gold. Goldenrod, I don't know, whatever that crayon color is.
Nice. We are just going for it.
And of course, why would I test it first and just put it directly on the piece that I have to fly to LA with in a very short amount of time? But thankfully, we escaped chaos with that one. Now, I'm very glad I was able to get this goldenrod color where I needed it to, and it was looking so beautiful on those curls. However, I didn't really think about the edges, and any end grain absorbs finish or liquids more and appears darker. So to fix that, I sanded it a little bit and then applied the straight yellow to it so it looked just more cohesive and not orange. And remember those itsy bitsy letters? Well, in my book, if it fits, it dips. And anything that's small enough to fit in a cup will go and just marinate. I'm not gonna be doing that by hand. And I really thought that was gonna look cooler, but it's okay.
I'm going to have to mix some colors, just kind of like I did to make the yellow a little bit more golden. I'm going to use the black to make the blue a little bit darker so that it matches the blue.
Somewhere along the way I learned, hey, maybe I should be testing these things before I put it on my piece that I can't really take back. And I'm grateful I did, because it took quite a bit of variations to get the dark blue that I needed.
Jesus.
And thankfully I learned to keep putting the plastic down because I can't keep anything clean. Can you tell I'm freaking out right now? Because I almost shit myself.
I just got real nervous thinking that was gonna be too dark. Oh, that was real good.
Yet again, somehow I escaped an absolute disaster. I loved the curls of this piece. Remember when I was super picky with that board selection? This is why. Also, remember when I thought I made the yellow better? It still looks like a highlighter. So I went back in with an even more red mixture, and it's definitely looking a lot better now. Which obviously meant it was the perfect time to accidentally get blue on the yellow. And if that wasn't enough of a close call.
No, that was the wrong color. Ah! Get this fuck away from me.
It's okay though, we can fix that.
Oh my god, it's on my gloves. I'm going to die.
Thankfully, my humming and piece was restored pretty quickly, and the goldenrod was no longer highlighter yellow, which finally meant it was time to just drop everything over the floor. And we call that girl bossing a little too close to the sun. But here's the bowing situation I was talking about, with adding that yellow to one side, the humidity and the bowing, and it was really fun and cool. I, at the time, just decided to go in and glue and fasten it. Sorry for all the aneurysms that might cause, but thankfully, a year later, it is still super flat and perfect. So we learned and we move on. And I included nails only where it would be covered by the blue layer or otherwise, and thankfully it worked perfectly well. And since I'm going to be using lacquer, which I haven't actually used before or tested, we scuff sanded before putting it on, because as you will soon see, I will be putting the letters on and spraying it all together.
Everything's fine.
Because a good clencher moment builds character. or as I should say, multiple clencher moments, aka breaking things at the last minute. Thankfully, a little CA glue and accelerator saves my butt every time. I wanted to get all the letters prepped for lacquer, which meant some sanding and dropping and just touching everything up. Thankfully, the lacquer is so user-friendly and dries very quickly. And as I prefaced before, we did not test this lacquer before spraying it. Thankfully, it's even easier to use than the dye. I sprayed the letters separately to get at least an even coat and in those nooks and crannies, so I didn't get any buildup on the sign when I sprayed it all together. And because that white banner is going on top. But as you can kind of see there is some bowing of the letters because they're thin, and I only stained and sealed one side, which is breaking a cardinal rule. But glue and nails came to the rescue. In attaching this top layer, I wanted to glue and fasten where the red letters were going to be because I'm all about hiding those pin nails. And since it wasn't being glued on a flat surface, it especially needed to be secured. And while I usually like mixing wood glue and CA glue as kind of a clamp, because the volume 3 already had lacquer on it, both surfaces weren't raw wood, which is what wood glue needs to bond. Which is another reason why those hidden pin nails were extra important here.
God damn it.
We're just gonna forget about that for a few minutes and glue on some pretty letters onto the pretty sign because everything's fine and cool. In all seriousness, it was a pretty easy fix with some CA glue, but I'm pretty tired of breaking things. And while there's still plenty of time to break things, we're pretty close to being done. All we have to do is glue on these tiny letters, which I did with the help of these micro tips with my CA glue, which are always a hell of a lot easier to use than holding the pieces themselves. And just like that, we're done and ready for finish. Very lightly and respectfully, of course. You know, so there's no bleeding. Of the layers, obviously, sickos. Wah wah. At this point, I'm starting to think I'm the problem, which I very much am, but this was an easy fix. Do you know what wasn't an easy fix? This piece that had too big of a gap that I decided to then pry off the piece. I did eventually get it free enough to be able to glue it properly into place, but that didn't come without battle wounds from prying it, which of course led to sanding and touching up, but thankfully these products are so easy, a baby could use them. Are you guys tired of this emotional roller coaster? Sorry. We're almost done. Despite all of the hiccups, this lacquer went on like a dream. So much so that I have since invested in a spray system so I can ditch the rattle can.
Oh my god.
Now that I've sufficiently pulled my groin, I figured it was time to get this baby wrapped up because I fly out in the morning. But thankfully these hangman cleats are a dream to work with, not only for install, but for the customer when they install it with that little bubble level. It's foolproof. Just remember to not test hang it on a slanted object. Now, if you've seen the video before this of me making the Cali portrait, I was actually doing both of these at the same time and flying both of them to LA in luggage because they were too big for my carry-on. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen suitcases get thrown around like basketballs, but I had many nightmares of this breaking into a million pieces.
Why am I more nervous to do this than shipping a piece? I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Oh, I hate this, it makes me so nervous. What if TSA unwraps this? Oh my god.
Needless to say, I engage in some morning mimosas at the airport to not think about it.
Let us pray. I'm gonna unpack this sign, and if it's broken, then you guys can see me cry in public. She made it. In one piece.
Now that I could take a fucking breather, all I had left to do was deliver it. To his humble abode, of course, where I was immediately starstruck by my idol, his cat Juju. And found out he is more than just a music artist. But let's give him the damn sign already.
Or it's more like Hanukkah. Wow. Wow. And the colors, I didn't expect the colors. Wow. So yeah, it said Hanukkah. Star David. See 2 Star David on here? Oh, this is so sick. I can't even comprehend how this is possible. I like the smell. Cocaine taste. Smell like this, I would do coke. EP coming soon.
This is like accountability.
Now I have to call Kyle and show him. Look at, whoa, no beard is crazy. Holy fuck. Oh, we've been obsessed with Planet of the Apes so we can speak in voice text all as the apes. It's so sick. It smells so good. That's the talent. Talent, art. I know.
Thanks. You did a good job with the design.
Kind of. Hey, good work.